Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to be able to understand the teachings that are going to help you establish a foundation to be able to make your way to enlightenment. So this Sunday, I'll be doing a talk on chapter 20, which is titled Animal to Human, the evolution of our consciousness. This is where you help to understand how human beings oftentimes are coming from more of animalistic instincts, and the path to enlightenment is about becoming a better and better human being and purifying the mind to get to this enlightened mental state. And then on Wednesdays, what I do is I do meditation with students, and then I just open up to whatever questions you guys have. On Sundays, we do meditation as well, but I really focus on giving a talk that's going to help you guys to be able to progress forward on the path to enlightenment, where today what I'll do is just give you guys a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha after our meditation, and then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys might have. Today, what we're going to be doing is loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's going to help you to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance. And then there's even the slightest dislike oftentimes in the unenlightened mind, where you might think that anger, hatred, and ill will, that frustration and bitterness and hostility is coming from other people, but in reality, it's actually coming from your own mind. You can actually get to the point where you train your mind that it no longer experiences that. And that's what the Buddha did, is he figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. So that's why we start each class with meditation. The way that this loving kindness meditation works is we start out with some chanting to ease our mind into the meditation. And I see some of you guys have the chanting sheets. If you'd like to get the chanting sheet, they're over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself. We're going to be using these to ease the mind into the meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to help commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is what they used as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. This is just to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you look at the English translations of these chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be ego and arrogance if somebody chose to do that. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't see yourself as being above people or below people. You wouldn't look down on people. So I'm sure the Buddha didn't create these himself, but if you learned from a teacher how to move from that anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is enlightenment. And this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you. They were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart to be able to help you get to this enlightened mental state. You'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that teacher too. And that's why I suspect that these chants came from his students either during his life or after his death. So if you like to chant these on the way into meditation, you're more than welcome to do that, and you'll see that you actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to provide you some guidance on breathing mindfulness meditation. This is what we're going to do just for a short period as we ease into the loving kindness meditation, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to do breathing mindfulness meditation while we're actually doing it. Then there's going to be a period of time, just a short period, where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. I'm sure you hear occasional sounds here. There might be a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone here might cough or sneeze or something like that. It's normal to have sounds in an environment. If your mind is craving permanent silence when you're in meditation and you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated or irritated. But that's your mind itself craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. Things around you are constantly changing, but the mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence. So you need to be able to understand when you hear a sound during meditation, this is completely normal. And you can train your mind to understand that that sound is going to arise, it's going to change, and then it's going to fade away. This is the way that the world works. Everything around you is constantly changing, and you can rest at ease and be peaceful when you hear that sound, knowing that it's going to fade away, that there's never going to be a time where you're going to experience permanent silence. It's just not possible because we live in an impermanent world. So during that period of time of quietness, I'm sure you hear occasional sound here or there. But then I'm going to come back in with these affirmations for the loving kindness meditation. You're going to hear me saying things like, may I be peaceful. And you'll hear me saying that, and you would like to repeat that in your mind on the out breath. And then, may I be safe. And again, you can repeat that in your mind on the out breath. May I be well, and may I be free of all discontentedness. And then we're going to move to a ring a little bit wider. We're going to say, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. Very slowly on the out breath. What we're doing here is we're not trying to change mom and dad. You can't actually change mom and dad through your meditation. Sometimes people think when they have anger and hatred and frustration and dislike, they think the way to solve this is to change other people. But that's not the way you're going to get to peace and joy. The way you get to peace and joy is by transforming your mind, so that now by you having more loving kindness in your mind, when you're around mom and dad, you can actually be more loving and kind. So that's what's going to transform your relationships. So this meditation is to help you build up your loving kindness. You'll see that we go through these multiple rings. We're going to start with mom and dad and go wider and wider until eventually we get to all beings, so that now if your mind has more and more loving kindness, you can go out into the world and be loving and kind with the people around you. And that's what's going to produce the beneficial results in your day-to-day life. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships, this is all just going to come back to you. So what the teachings of the Buddha are doing is it's guiding you to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, where now you can transform your mind and you can experience improved results in your day-to-day relationships. So we're going to go through these multiple rings in the loving kindness meditation. Then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness. Then we're going to go back to the chanting. The way that I think about this is kind of like a loving kindness sandwich, where you've got loving kindness in the middle, and the lettuce and tomatoes, like the breathing mindfulness meditation, and the bread holding it all together is like the chanting. So I'm going to guide you guys through this all the way through. And then at the end of our meditation, after we're done, I'll share with you guys a bit more of the teachings of the Buddha to help you guys to be able to understand what he taught. And then I'll just essentially open up to any and all questions that you'd like to ask. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like a tool belt that you assemble these different tools that the Buddha used in order to train his mind, and then you employ them at different times in your life in order to train your mind and uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. So oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. You can do the loving kindness meditation in the seated, lying, and standing positions. We usually don't do it in the walking position. There's another meditation that we use for the walking meditation. But you use these different positions because your body can't be in the same position permanently. So I'm going to give you guys some guidance on the seated position, because that's oftentimes what people are learning in. But just understand what I share with you as guidance. It isn't any kind of hard, fast rules or anything like that. You're not training the body during meditation. You're actually training the mind. So if there's something that I share with you that is helpful and you'd like to employ that, go ahead. But if there's something that you find to be comfortable that you would like to use that isn't what I've taught, that's fine too. You can use whatever you like, because it's important that the body is comfortable, not luxurious and not painful, but in the middle where it's comfortable. And whatever you find to be comfortable, that would be wise for you to use that. But here are some suggestions that you might consider as recommendations to find some more comfort. You could be sitting on the floor in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften the seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you would like to just do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation in the lower body and can cause pain. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left and his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but there's other options here as well. Some people might find that they like having their palms on their thighs or on their knees or their palms up, or some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can do whatever you like with your hands and arms, just as long as they're comfortable and relaxed. And then those of you that are in a chair, on a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair, anything like this, you can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, you would like this to be erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, your mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only is it going to keep the mind attentive and alert, but it's going to make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you like the mind to be attentive and alert during this meditation. So that's why having the sternum up and shoulders back will help you to be able to keep the mind attentive and alert while you actively train the mind. And it's also going to make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So if you'd like to join in this chanting, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rogavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Puto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Wat Tung Mahakewanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakewata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami สุปฏิปันโนมหะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly ease your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. This meditation is called loving kindness meditation. We did a meditation prior to that and afterwards, which is called breathing mindfulness meditation. These two meditations have specific goals that are actually helping you to move closer and closer to this enlightened mental state, where the mind can be completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, that the mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. All the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all of this can be eliminated from the mind. Essentially what the Buddha did is he figured out that there's these 10 individual pollutions that are in the unenlightened mind. And once you understand what these pollutions are and how to uproot them using the tools and techniques that he taught, you can actually experience this peace and joy. The Buddha figured this out on his own, and then he knew that what worked for his mind would work for your mind as well. That's why he taught it. From the age of 35 to 80, he dedicated his life to sharing these teachings with other people because he knew how impactful the enlightened mental state is. Because not only do you eliminate those discontent feelings, but your mind will be performing optimally. You'll notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. They'll be at ease, where you won't have bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind anymore, so that won't be coming out in your relationships, and you'll notice that your relationships will really improve. You'll get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood any longer. And this comes through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that it's other people who are causing you to be angry, or you might think it's your mom and dad that are frustrating you, or your boss is annoying you, or your brothers and sisters are irritating you, or something like this. But this just isn't true. And the way that the teachings of the Buddha work is that you need to learn, investigate, and examine them. You reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, and then you practice his teachings in order to integrate them into your day-to-day life in order to be able to train the mind. So I'm going to share with you a shortened version of helping you to understand how your mind and why your mind is experiencing these discontent feelings, but don't don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. The teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. It's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life so that you can experience this transformation, improvement in your day-to-day life. And you need wisdom to be able to accomplish that. You can't believe your way to a better life. So you're going to need to make sure that you don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. Because as I describe what's causing these feelings in your mind, you can independently verify it through your own direct experience. So what the Buddha discovered is that the mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be permanent when you live in an impermanent world, that the mind is longing, yearning. This is called craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. The mind is chasing after the objects of its affection. It's like having an unquenchable thirst that the mind thinks something external is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. And if the mind gets what it wants, what it expects, it'll experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and things of this nature. Because the mind's craving permanence while it lives in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. It arises, things change, and then they fade away. But the mind's craving this permanence, wanting things to be permanent. So for example, if you could think back to maybe like a relationship where you guys first got together, you might have been so happy when you first got together. You're having all these pleasant feelings because the mind was getting what it wanted. You wanted this affection from this person, or you wanted this person to be in your life. And maybe you guys were going to the movies, you're going to dinner, maybe you're going to the park and having great conversations. Maybe you were having intimate contact. So there was all this pleasure. And at the beginning, you didn't really have any expectations of them. You didn't really want anything from them. You were just interested to get to know this person. But then over time, your expectations grew and they couldn't fulfill your expectations permanently. And their expectations of you increased as well. And you couldn't fulfill their expectations permanently because you live in an impermanent world. And now the relationship, you might have been angry or frustrated or agitated. You guys broke up and the relationship was over. And now you might have really been angry and frustrated, or you might have been lonely or bored during this time. You might have been missing this person. This wasn't because of your love. This was because the mind was holding on and craving permanence, wanting this person to be permanent in your life when they were always impermanent. From the very beginning of the relationship, this relationship was going to be over someday. But the unenlightened mind doesn't understand that. It craves permanence. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, more likely than not, one of you would have died first. So the mind, when it craves permanence, it will experience the painful feelings when it's not getting what it wants. So for example, if you've had people close to you die, like maybe grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or brothers or sisters or people like this, you might have grieved or had sorrow or sadness during this period of time. You're not a bad person if this happened. This is what every unenlightened being is experiencing. But what the mind's experiencing here is the mind's holding on and craving permanence. That if mom and dad are alive, or brothers and sisters, or grandma and grandpa, the mind's getting what it wants. It's happy. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, then it experiences the sadness and sorrow and the grief and other discontent feelings because the mind's holding on and craving permanence, not understanding that grandma and grandpa are impermanent, that they're temporary. Because they were born, they had to die, just like every single one of us, that we're all going to die someday. None of us are going to live permanently, right? But oftentimes the mind doesn't understand this. You might understand it intellectually that, yeah, we're all going to die someday, but the mind is holding on and craving for grandma and grandpa to be permanent, or mom or dad to be permanent. You can see this if you ever been to a wedding, if you've seen people cry at a wedding, or if you've cried at a wedding, maybe brother and sister going off into the world with somebody else. The mind here is holding on and craving this permanence, wanting them to be permanent in your life. But them going off into the world with somebody else, the mind's experiencing this impermanence, and it doesn't like that. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence, But another way to say it is that the mind doesn't like impermanence. The unenlightened mind doesn't like change, right? So you can see whenever your life has been changing, whether it's changing jobs, changing living locations, changing relationships, these are the times that you've struggled the most because the mind's holding on and craving permanence. And then you live in an impermanent world, and the mind doesn't like that. It hasn't been trained to let go. So as long as the mind holds on and craves permanence, then while you live in an impermanent world, you'll constantly experience anger and sadness and frustration. And what the mind's going to do is it's going to falsely believe these feelings are coming from something external. So it will tend to become unskillful. When you experience those painful feelings, what you'll tend to do is push people away, or you'll push the situation away. This is called aversion, that the mind firmly believes that this person is causing your anger and frustration, and the mind thinks the way to solve that is push them away. Or you might have pushed away friends or family out of your life. But you can see this didn't fix the problem because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get annoyed. If this person was the true cause of your discontent feelings, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the other unskillful thing that the mind will do when it's experiencing those painful feelings is it'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. The mind's trying to get those cravings fulfilled. The mind thinks if I can just get what I want, then everything will be perfect. So the mind's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to convince them to do things your way. It's almost like trying to fear them into doing things your way. And this doesn't work because it leads to broken relationships and heartache and misery and things like this. And then the third thing the mind will do when it firmly believes the problem is external is it will try to put its expectations on people and try to control them and force them to do things your way. And this doesn't work either because people feel pressured and controlled being around you, and then they're going to choose to leave out of your life because they don't want to be controlled or pressured by other people. So as long as the mind's misunderstanding that the problem is internal, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you'll continue to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and put your expectations on people. And you can't live harmoniously with all beings in this way. So there's an answer for this. There's a solution for this, that you can train your mind to let go, that you don't hold on and crave permanence. But I'm going to give you a few more examples so you can see this for yourself. And then I'm going to invite you to verify this for yourself. So if you bought a brand new car and you really saved up for this car for a long time and you drove it off the parking lot and everybody was like, wow, look at him. He's so successful. Wow, look at her. Wow, she's so successful. You might be so proud driving your new car, and you park it at the store and you go inside and you come out and there's a scratch on your car. You might be frustrated or agitated or annoyed if this occurs. It's not the scratch that's causing that frustration or annoyment, and it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the frustration and the anger to arise is the mind's craving permanence. It's wanting this car to look permanently beautiful when it's not possible for this car to look permanently beautiful because it's impermanent. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. And as these things are occurring, if your mind's craving permanence, you'll be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed because the mind doesn't have the wisdom to realize it lives in an impermanent world. So you can see through various examples of how your mind is craving permanence. And I can give you tons of examples, but it's important for you to relate this to your life. You need to be able to see it for yourself. Again, because none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief, you need to be able to see the wisdom. So I'd like to invite you to take a moment to think about your own life, to think about your own situations that maybe you've been in this morning or yesterday or last week, where you might have been frustrated or agitated or annoyed. You can look at that situation with these fresh eyes, with this new wisdom, because at that time you might have been trying to blame other people for the things that you were experiencing. But look at that situation. What was it that you were craving? What is it that you were wanting, that you were expecting? And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because the mind didn't get what it wanted and what it expected, craving that permanence, it experienced the painful feelings. If you can look at this for yourself and see the truth, you can have a real breakthrough to being able to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because as long as you go around and you blame other people for what you're experiencing, you'll never be able to actually fix it and improve it. You'll just be angry and frustrated the rest of your life. So if you guys have questions, when we get to the question period, we have microphones here in the middle of the bowl, in the middle of the room in a white bowl. I'm going to pause here in a little bit and open up for questions. You guys can ask me questions because maybe you're having challenges to see this. These microphones, all you need to do is get a microphone, press the gray button. The lights are going to come on. You can hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question or someone around you might have a question and you can just share it with them. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers. And then anybody who's online in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your questions into the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions you like just by unmuting your microphone. So if you can start seeing that it's your own mind that's craving this permanence, that it's holding on, and the Buddha teaches you that the way to solve this is to eliminate the holding on, that you need to train your mind to let go. That's what's going to help you to move the mind to peace and joy. And he gives you the complete, perfect plan of how to do this. It's called the Eightfold Path. It's the core central teaching of the Buddha that's going to guide you in training your mind about how to get to this point where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful. If you can see that it's your own mind holding on, that's craving permanence, that's causing these discontent feelings, then the next part of this is to be able to see that by letting go, that's what's actually going to help you to get to the peace and joy. And you should be able to see this in your life too. Because if you could think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you guys broke up, where you were maybe lonely or bored or missing this person or angry for a period of time, at some point your mind let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. Or if she would like to move to another part of the world and not live here near me, okay, so be it. And your mind let go. And when your mind let go, that's where your peace and your joy came in. But as long as you hold on, craving permanence, your mind's going to experience these painful feelings because you live in an impermanent world and your mind's not getting what it wants. So that breathing mindfulness meditation we were doing, where we were focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath and we were letting go and coming back to the breath, this is training your mind to let go. Because the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to notice them sooner and sooner and let them go easier and easier, because the mind doesn't know how to let go. So now if you train your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation regularly, and sometimes we just do that by itself, we don't do the loving kindness meditation. But if you train your mind with this breathing mindfulness meditation regularly and it learns how to let go, now as those discontent feelings are arising, you can let them go. You don't have to hold on to them. You can train your mind to the point where you can control it. Because when you're angry or sad or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings, you don't have control over your mind. You've probably seen that, where you've maybe done things that are unwise, where you've made unwise decisions that actually made the situation worse. So if you can get to the point where you're regularly training your mind, not only with this meditation, but there's other teachings that the Buddha shares with you too, you can train your mind to let go. And now you can have control over your own mind because your mind's disciplined, that no longer is your mind controlling you, but instead you're able to control it. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to let go. So your mind's not longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of its affection. And sometimes when people hear me talk about letting go and no longer chasing after things, they think that maybe their mind would swing over here to the other side where you'd feel dull and lethargic and lazy and complacent. Well, if your mind does that, that's not what the Buddha is teaching you to do. He's actually teaching you to come to the middle, where you can gradually pursue things as a goal, objective, or interest, right? And this is where you can experience the peace and the joy through making wise decisions to gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interest with ambition and enthusiasm, but without the longing, yearning, and basing your feelings on whether or not you accomplish that thing or not. So the mind can actually be transformed, and we call this awakening to enlightenment. And what it means to awaken is to cultivate wisdom. that you're cultivating wisdom about the world around you. Because in the unenlightened state, the mind lacks wisdom. So, for example, the mind doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It doesn't understand that it lives in an impermanent world, but yet the mind is craving permanence. It doesn't understand that. It lacks that wisdom. The mind will firmly believe that it's other people who are causing you to be angry or frustrated. But with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you need to be able to get to this wisdom where more and more clearly you can see the truth about how the world truly actually works. So we started out with that breathing mindfulness meditation, and ultimately we moved to the loving kindness meditation. This is meant to cultivate the love and kindness within your own mind, which means this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you don't have judgment towards other beings. Because as long as you have judgment towards others and you're looking down on them, or you're having anger, hatred, and ill will, or even the slightest dislike towards others, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. Sometimes people think that when you dislike someone, that it's coming from them. But it's actually coming from your own mind, because once again, the mind's craving permanence. The mind has certain expectations that it wants everybody to be a certain way. And when people meet your expectations, you like them. It's like, wow, they're doing things my way. I really like those people. Wow, we can have a lot of fun together. They are like-minded people. Wow, I really like these people, right? But now if you encounter someone who does things differently than you, and you will encounter people that do things differently than you because you live in an impermanent world. But now when you encounter these people who do things differently than you, the mind's like, I don't like them, right? Because the mind's not getting what it wants, which is this permanence, this craving for these people to be permanent. So you can get to the point where not only are you not angry, bitter and harsh and hostile and frustrated and agitated and annoyed, but you can get to the point where you don't have the slightest dislike towards other people, that you understand impermanence. And surely people are going to do things differently than you. That's normal. That's impermanence. But as long as your mind craves permanence, wanting people to do things a certain way, you'll like people that do things that way, but you'll dislike people who don't do things that way. So this meditation of loving kindness is to essentially like fill up the gas tank within your own mind, where you have love and kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, this active goodwill towards others. This meditation isn't designed to change other people. In fact, you can't change other people through your meditation. It's not possible. If it was possible for us to change other people through meditation, a bunch of us would get together and we would all meditate, and there would be no such thing as murderers and rapists and child abuse and things like that. We would just change the world through our meditation. But this just isn't possible, right? So meditation is actually transforming your mind, is training your mind to be transformed. So when we're saying, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness, that's so that in our mind, we have those thoughts, those intentions, so that now when we're around mom and dad, we can be more loving and kind. Because that bitterness and harshness that you put out is just damaging your relationship. And now you can transform your mind so more and more you can be loving and kind in these relationships. And over time, this will transform your relationships. So this is something that you're doing in order to help your mind. So not only do you need to build up this loving kindness in your mind, but you need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. This is what the Buddha teaches you in that core central teaching of the Eightfold Path. Among other things, he's teaching you how to be loving and kind, right? So that now you can go out into the world and you can be loving and kind in your day-to-day life. And because of the natural laws of cause and effect, whatever you put out, it's going to come back to you. So if you put out loving kindness more and more, over a consistent long-term period of time, what you'll see more and more is your relationships will transform. But it starts with transforming your own mind. Sometimes we think we need to change other people, and that's how we're going to get to improvement in our life. I tell you, I tried to change my mom a whole lot while she was alive, because I had so much resentment and hostility in my mind towards her because I wasn't getting what I wanted, right? I wanted her to be a certain way. I expected her to be a certain way. But she was never that way, right? So because I wasn't getting what I wanted, I had this anger and hostility, and I was trying to change her, thinking that that was going to solve the problem, but it never did. The way that you solve this is you transform your mind so that now when you're more loving and kind around those people, you'll see that your relationships will improve. So it's not changing other people that's going to get to the peace and joy in your day-to-day life. You can actually transform your mind, and now you can release all that anger and hostility in the mind. Because sometimes we think holding on to resentment and hostility is a way to get back at the other person, right? For the things that they didn't do that we wanted them to do, right? But holding on to a grudge, holding on to hostility, it's actually harming your own mind. It's actually not harming that other person at all. Because as long as you're walking around with bitterness and harshness in your mind, you're holding on to this hot coal, and you're trying to burn somebody else with this hot coal that you're holding on to. But the only person that's getting burned is yourself. So the Buddha teaches you how to get past this, where you can get to the point where there's love and kindness in your mind towards all beings. But you can't just meditate your way to that. You need to, yes, meditate, but then you need to learn with wisdom how to go out into the world and be loving and kind in your day-to-day interactions through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is where the real work begins, is the meditation is like exercising your mind, building up the qualities that you need. But then the real work is when you go outside and you start interacting with people. And you need more guidance than just meditation. Sometimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this actually isn't true. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress over a 6-year period of time that he gradually trained his mind to get to this enlightened mental state. So it's not a 1-week thing, a 1-month thing, or even a 1-year thing. But as you gradually train your mind and you ultimately get to this enlightened mental state, you'll see the qualities of enlightenment gradually shining through as you're getting closer and closer. It's not sudden, it's not instantaneous, but you'll see the qualities of enlightenment start to shine through. The way you might think about it is if there was the sun and there was clouds in front of the sun and you peeled away those clouds, slowly but surely the rays of the sun are going to shine through. So one way of saying this is, yes, your mind needs to attain enlightenment, but another way to think about it is that your mind's already enlightened. And you just need to get the pollutions out of the way so you can experience the peace and joy. So as you're peeling away these pollutions that the Buddha discovered through the tools and techniques that he taught, you'll see more and more of the qualities of enlightenment gradually increasing as you're making your way closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. And life is just going to get better and better and better, slowly but surely. So I'm going to just stop here and see if there's any questions or anything you guys would like to talk about. Remember, we have microphones here for those of you guys at the temple. And for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So is there any questions here or online? Looks like this ma'am has a question. Yep. You're welcome to take that back to your seat if you like. Yeah.
My question would be that the solution that you mentioned that by go, is there any limitation or at some point that you see those negative emotions that trying to protect our own interest or ourselves by letting go that could actually hurt us and hurt our family or loved ones?
Okay, so there's no benefit to those painful feelings. It's not helping you at all. This is part of the lack of wisdom that the mind has. It thinks like, for example, that fear coming up causes you to then know that this thing is harmful and now to run away from it, right? This isn't actually true, because whenever your mind is experiencing discontent feelings, we'll just focus on the painful ones for now, since that's what we're talking about. Your mind is shaken up and unsteady in that situation, and now you can't make wise decisions. So in this situation where the mind observes something that could potentially be harmful and fear comes up in the mind, now the mind's going to potentially make unwise decisions that leads to unwholesome results. But if you can maintain your calmness and composure, and now you can use your wisdom and look at that same situation and say, this is not wise for me to be here. Let me now move away. And now you make wise decisions to leave. So the sadness, the anger, the frustration is actually harming your own mind, because in that situation, you don't have control of your mind. And now when you put that out, through your intention, speech, and actions, where you're bitter and harsh and hostile to people, it's just damaging your relationships, because that's where you're making some of the unwise decisions when your mind's angry and frustrated and annoyed. So it's not actually protecting you. It's not actually protecting your loved ones, the people around you. It's actually causing harm to your own mind. It's causing harm to the people around you. But you need to be able to see this for yourself, that when your mind's calm and composed, you can make wise decisions and it produces wholesome results for you. Where when your mind's all shaken up with these discontent feelings, you can't do that. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to get to the point where not only is your mind eliminated these discontent feelings, but the mind is stable, it's steady, it's unshakable. There's nothing that can shake up your mind by the time you get to enlightenment. And now with that steady and stable mind, you can now make wise decisions that's going to produce wholesome results for you in your day-to-day life.
Okay, so to your point, your like example, if my car is like crashed,
maybe you can get a different mic, and that way I'll be able to hear you better. That mic is impermanent, just like the Buddha said. His teachings apply even to modern technology. Maybe you guys could turn that one off too and just set it aside. I'll take a look at it and maybe we can get it.
So better. As your example, if my car is like someone scratched my car in the parking, so the solution is that we can go to the police station in a peaceful mindset, not trying to get annoyed, but get things to be done or resolved in peaceful mind.
Potentially, there's always more than one answer to any one particular situation. But whatever you decide to do when you see that scratch, you'll be able to figure out what to do next when your mind is not shaken up. So yeah, you could go see the police, but you could also look to see if there's a note on your car. Maybe they left a note, or you could talk to the security guards at the store. Maybe they have CCTV cameras and things like this. And yes, you're right. When you're talking to those people, if your mind's all shaken up with anger and bitterness and hostility, you're going to be angry and bitter to those people, and they're not going to be motivated to help you. Right, necessarily. But if you can stay calm and composed, and now you can be polite and respectful to the police and the security guards, now you can make wise decisions that's going to produce a wholesome result for you. But as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile because your mind's all shaken up, you can't make wise decisions in that situation. So there's always more than one so-called right answer or wise answer. But there's always this unwise answer. This unwise answer is to allow your mind to be shaken up. Because if your mind's shaken up because of that scratch on your car, now you can't see clearly. All you see is anger and frustration, and you can't make wise decisions to solve it, right? Because another option is like, thank goodness I have insurance, right? I'm going to take this to the insurance agent tomorrow so that I can get it fixed at the body shop. That's another option, right? But if there's anger and hostility and bitterness, there's probably people right now that are in jail for the rest of their life because their car got scratched. They saw the person do it, and they probably murdered the person. They were so angry and frustrated, they murdered this person, right? And now they're sitting in jail for the rest of their life because their mind was craving permanence. Whereas if you gain this wisdom and you train your mind, you can maintain your calmness and composure, whether the person did it intentionally, which is pretty rare, or if they did it unintentionally. You can maintain your calmness and composure, realize this is a normal part of life, that this car isn't going to be permanently beautiful, and now just make wise decisions to bring it to a close in however that is for you. In each individual situation, you might choose something different. Yeah, you're welcome. You guys have other questions here? I think Chris has a question. Yeah. Okay, we have one here on Zoom. Let me answer this on Zoom while you're getting your microphone. Okay, so Melody's asking, with some people, we want to build a deeper connection. Many people choose to find a partner, build a relationship, or go into marriage and build a family together. It may sound like some kind of craving for permanence. Why do we do that? So there's two ways to eliminate a craving, desire, attachment. There's cutting it off and letting it go, which is what we've been talking about so far. But there's also fulfilling a craving, desire, attachment. You can fulfill a craving and you'll actually see that the mind will release it. So say, for example, I've always wanted to go to the Philippines, and I've never been to the Philippines before. I could cut it off and let it go and train my mind to let this go. Be like, hey, you don't have enough money. You don't have the ability to travel. you're just going to stay in Thailand. You're not going to the Philippines, right? And I could cut this off and let it go and gain my peace and my joy. But as long as my mind's longing and yearning for the Philippines and I haven't been there and I can't go there and I can't cut it off, then the mind's going to be frustrated and annoyed. It's not going to be happy with being here in Thailand, living here. It's going to long and yearn for something else. That's what the unenlightened mind does, is like the grass is always greener on the other side. It keeps wanting something that it doesn't have, right? So you could cut it off and let it go and not go to the Philippines, or you could just go to the Philippines. But you know what? I'm going to go check out the Philippines. I would like to see what this place is like. Let me go check it out. And now you go check it out. You spend your time in the Philippines. And now you're like, all right, been there, done that. I don't have that craving anymore. But you need to watch out for the mind, because now it's going to want to go to Tokyo and Beijing and, somewhere else, right? It's going to keep longing, yearning for the next thing, right? So you can fulfill a craving. So this is one of the things that we do for some people with a life partner, is that the mind is craving and longing, yearning for a life partner, to have somebody involved in your life. And now some people choose to cut that off and let it go and decide to be single for the rest of their life. And that can be fine. That's one way to live life. Or some people decide to get a partner, right? You just find somebody. But now you need to be able to make sure that you make a wise choice about who to include in your life. And now when you find that partner, you guys can grow and develop as individuals. And now you can create a really wonderful life with each other. But you need to be able to have the wisdom of how to do that, because the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to do that. Because when we enter into a relationship with a potential life partner, there is craving. The mind is craving and longing, yearning. Like maybe someone is longing, yearning for this physical beauty or handsomeness of this person, or maybe the financial status of this individual, or maybe the social status, or maybe their intellect and their intelligence. Maybe they're longing, yearning to be with someone like that, right? So there's a certain number of cravings. It can even be sexual cravings that the mind has that. So now when you get involved in this relationship, it was craving, desire, attachment that brought you together. And of course, there's going to be love that is built up in the mind more and more. But that's a whole nother topic of understanding what love is, because oftentimes the mind misunderstands what love is in the unenlightened state. But nonetheless, now that you've entered into this relationship with craving, desire, attachment, if you guys are working individually on the path to enlightenment while supporting and encouraging each other, you can actually build this wonderful life with each other, where you get to the point where there aren't any cravings, desires, attachments any longer. And now you have a completely peaceful and harmonious relationship. But as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your relationships, you'll get angry and frustrated, agitated with each other. This is why at the beginning of the relationship, it goes wonderful. But as you go through longer and longer, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, it can feel like a real drag, because this person wants things one way and this person wants things the other way. And both people are tugging and pulling at each other. And you can get to a point where you're not doing that to each other. But this takes more understanding. But the reason why the mind goes after a life partner, which is what you were asking, Melody, is that it has craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning, and it's trying to fulfill that craving. But the thing is once it gets into this relationship, now new cravings are adopted. And that's why the individual becomes more and more angry, more and more frustrated. So if you learn how to have a relationship without attachment, now you can just have a really loving and wonderful and supportive relationship. But you need both partners to be able to understand how to do this. Because if one partner is learning how to practice non-attachment and the other one is not, it's a real challenge for people, because this person's becoming more and more peaceful, more and more joyful, and this person's just disgruntled and bitter and harsh and hostile. So if both partners are actually learning and growing, it actually works much better for them. Chris, you have some questions?
I'm not quite sure how to phrase this, so I'm going to try my best here.
Okay.
So what I'm noticing as I'm entering the practice and learning is that I am increasing my suffering, and both remembering the things that I've done and that I'm trying to let go of, and it's making it harder to let go of these things. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking of it as sort of the paradox of the increase of suffering on the path to enlightenment. Mm-hmm. What sort of advice or guidance from those who have been through it, like yourself, might you be able to share about managing that increase in suffering and going through the suck, or whatever we might call it?
Okay, there's a few things here. Is that when you first get onto this path and you start realizing that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and you look back over your life and you're like, oh my goodness, I was causing that all myself, right? It's almost like you were going through life, knocking down the trees, burning up the forest, thinking everyone else was the problem. And the next thing you know is like, what's that smell? And you look behind you and it's like, whoa, who knocked down all those trees? And where's all that smoke coming from? I'm the one who did all that? Oh my gosh. Like your mind really is like taken back by this. Because I know that you've been in probably knockdown, drag out arguments where you've been trying to convince other people that they have to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry and frustrated. And now when you come to start to understand like, oh my goodness, that was my mind causing that. It's hard for the mind to see it because the mind's ego is in there saying, I'm so great and everyone else is the problem here. It's not me that's causing this. So the mind initially doesn't want to see it. It doesn't want to be able to acknowledge that, hey, this is the individual who's been causing all of those difficulties and struggles. So once you get over that and you realize like, hey, you're the one who was causing all these discontent feelings, you need to be able to understand that every single being who was ever born has experienced the exact same thing. There's no being ever that has been perfect from birth all the way until death. The whole reason why we're being born is because the mind has these cravings, desires, attachments, and is experiencing these struggles and difficulties, and we need to cultivate this wisdom. So understanding that you're a work in progress, and you can't beat yourself up today for wisdom that you didn't have yesterday. Right? So when you're gaining wisdom now to be able to see like, oh my goodness, I was making all these unwise decisions. Well, of course, because you lacked wisdom back then. So now today you have that wisdom. So be thankful and appreciative and have gratitude for that wisdom that you're receiving and that you've now got. But don't beat yourself up today for wisdom that you didn't have yesterday. So this is some parts of it. But then the other parts of this is there's something called moral concern that the Buddha describes, that this is a quality of mind that you develop on the path to enlightenment. There's something called moral wrongdoing and moral concern. What moral wrongdoing is that you understand what's wise and unwise. This is what you need to develop as part of the path. This is awakening to the natural law of karma, understanding wise decision-making versus unwise decision-making. So you need to cultivate that moral wrongdoing to know what's wise and unwise. But as you do that and you realize that you've been making all these unwise decisions, this is where your moral concern kicks in. And oftentimes it's not in the middle. What moral concern is where you're disinterested in causing harm to others, that you have concern for the unwise decisions that you've been making, and now you work to improve that, right? So when you first develop this moral wrongdoing where you understand what's wise and unwise, now there's this moral concern that kicks in, but it's not in the middle at the beginning where you can have this stress and anxiety and this guilt and this shame for the things that you've done in the past, because the mind's still craving, it's still holding on, wanting things to be a certain way, not realizing that you're a work in progress. So you need to bring that to the middle where you have concern for the things that you've done and you have concern for other beings and you're disinterested in causing harm to others. Then the third part of this is that as you learn all these things, and now you're actually making the decisions to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, you're going to experience painful feelings. You can't get to enlightenment without experiencing painful feelings. Sometimes when we think about enlightenment, we think about, just walking towards the clouds and it's like sunshine and rainbows and all this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of hard work in getting to enlightenment because our mind in the unenlightened state with this lack of wisdom has had these cravings, and your cravings were getting fulfilled to a certain degree. And now when you start letting those go, your mind's no longer getting what it wants. That when you were having craving, desire, attachment, your mind was getting what it wanted to a certain degree, so you were experiencing pleasant feelings. But as you're training your mind to let go of those certain things and your mind's going over here, you're going to experience the painful feelings. The way that I talk about it is these. It's like walking through the fire and appreciating the fresh air on the other side. It's like you have to walk through this fire in order to appreciate the fresh air on the other side. So as you're training your mind to let go of the cravings, you're in the fire. The mind's feeling burned, but you need to keep walking to get to the other side where you experience the fresh air. Or another way, this might be another way to think of it, about it, is it's like joining the mafia. right? Like when you start having craving, desire, attachment, when your mind's longing, yearning, and forming your inner feelings based on something, it's getting so much pleasure. It's like, wow, this is so much fun. I've got all these things, and wow, look at all of this stuff. Wow, I feel so great for all this stuff, right? But then the mind doesn't see later on you actually experience painful feelings related to those things. But nonetheless, when you get into the mafia, it's wonderful. It's like, wow, I got all these new friends. I got all this protection. I got all these new ways to make money. Wow, this is great getting into the mafia. This is great having craving, desire, attachment. But now if you try to get out of the mafia, it's really hard. It's painful, right? You got to walk through the fire to appreciate the fresh air on the other side. So when you're getting out of the mafia, it's really painful to be able to do that. But if you can break through and get to the other side, you're free, right? So your mind is the same way, that you got all these pleasant feelings from whatever it is that your mind's been craving and clinging to. And when you're training your mind to let that go, it's painful. But that's because the mind hasn't fully let go yet. When you get to the other side of this, that's where the peace and the joy comes in. Right? So knowing how to have a computer, or have a phone, or have relationships and not be attached to them, that's where the peace and the joy is. But while your mind's letting go and it doesn't know how to let go, that's where you're going to experience painful feelings on your way to enlightenment. But then as your mind lets go more and more, that's where the peace and joy comes in, because you're now not in the fire any longer. So that's part of the process. You can't get to enlightenment without experiencing painful feelings. But once you get to enlightenment, and as you're getting to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state that your mind will never again experience the anger and sadness and those painful feelings ever again. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Any other questions here or online? Anybody would like to ask questions? You're welcome, Melody. Pleased to help you. Yeah, you have a question? Iceman. Iceman. He's been given a nickname by somebody. I almost forgot your real name. What's your Balder?
But Iceman is good.
Yeah, that's what you said. You said you like that name, right?
I'm from Iceland. That's why he's calling me Iceman. Or he thinks I'm very cold, which I'm also sometimes. Yes, so I have a question sort of relating to the other one too, about, I guess, I've been doing a lot of growing in this past year, and then I come here and I'm learning more and more. Some days are really bad, but I always sort of know I'm going to come out of this. There's a learning point to it. So sometimes in the middle of feeling miserable, I'm sort of waiting. Oh, it's going to be over in a couple of days. And what am I going to learn from this? But in studying all this, I guess my question, in reading the material, there's so much work ahead in losing myself and sort of not being so self-obsessed and caught up in my own problems. But I guess the question is about enlightenment. Like when I'm doing this now, like I hear this word again and again and again. I just want to find a little more peace, a little more quiet in my mind, and be kinder to other people. But to me, enlightenment is just, it's a word I hear, but it's not really where I look at myself. That's not my goal right now, but like a fuzzy question. I just want improvement, and I don't think I'm going to get, very far the rest of my life, but I'm at least moving in the direction. Like, what should my mindset be? Is it on enlightenment or just a little bit better than it is? You know what I mean?
I encourage people to focus their goal on getting to enlightenment, because then if you fall short of that, then you'll be where it is that you're interested, right? Whereas if you focus your goal short of that, and then you fall short of that, right, you're not really getting very much progress. It's kind of like the saying that people say, shoot for the moon, because if you miss, then at least you'll be among the stars, right? But there's no reason why you can't get to the moon, so to speak, right? Getting to enlightenment. The fact that you don't have a craving, desire, attachment for enlightenment, that's really good. because that's something that some people can have where they're longing, yearning, and chasing after enlightenment. And as long as you do that, you won't actually get to it. But if you're all the way on the other side, where you were like dull and lethargic and lazy and you could care less about inner improvement and development, then your mind's not going to make progress there either. So coming to the middle, which is more about what it sounds like your mind is kind of closer to the middle, where you can pursue this inner growth, this inner development, that's actually what you would like to be able to do. And that's essentially what the path to enlightenment is. It's a self-help program. Enlightenment is just the ultimate goal. But even when your mind's enlightened, I teach people, don't even convince yourself that you're enlightened, right? Because then you're just kind of like, oh, okay, well, now the mind's enlightened. What next, right? But if you don't convince yourself that your mind is enlightened, then you're just always going to be looking for constant improvement and constant development. And the mind can continue to grow and develop for the rest of your life. So getting to enlightenment is like the beginning of the rest of your life, right? Because now you can function without this anger and sadness and frustration and so forth and so on. But you'll be making gradual improvements as you're making your way towards it, because there's these 4 preliminary phases that the mind goes through. And then there's 4 stages that the mind goes through before it actually gets to enlightenment. And you'll see through all of that progress that there's continuous improvement that you're experiencing. So if you're looking for some improvement, I would say focus on enlightenment, because that's the ultimate goal. And by focusing on that, you'll learn all the teachings that you need in order to create that improvement that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Okay,
thanks.
Yeah, we have a question coming in on YouTube as well. Let's see. I was in Chiang Mai in March 2024 and joined your tour. I just wanted to thank you again for the experience. Hopefully I'll be able to come back to Chiang Mai again sometime soon. Oh, you're welcome. Pleased to help you. Here's some more. Your classes and conversations with you were really enjoyable and I learned a lot. Oh, you're welcome. How can I calm my thoughts? I've had many surprises recently, some behind me, some still ahead, and I've been feeling very restless for months. Yeah, it sounds like while you went on the tour with us and you maybe had some conversations with me, you didn't learn the Eightfold Path and you didn't practice that closely. That's why your mind's experiencing the difficulties and struggles. By the time you get to enlightenment, there's no difficulties and struggles whatsoever. Life is at ease. There'll be certain challenges in life, but you'll have the wisdom to be able to approach those and address those. So you're going to need to learn the Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha. And what I suggest you do is you start with this first book, which is titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can get it online by downloading it for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. I suggest you start with the first book and you gradually learn, and then take these classes on Sundays and Wednesdays. I teach at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Thai time, and as you know, you can join in through the live stream, or you can watch the recordings too. If you can't attend live, you can just watch the recordings. But you're going to need that slow, steady, consistent training. There's no kind of, I know you didn't ask for this, but there's no kind of like magic potion or magic pill or anything like that, or even any particular one meditation that's going to instantly make everything you're doing in life easier. It's through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that you're going to experience improvement in your day-to-day life. So you're going to need to be able to be dedicated enough for your own inner growth that you're willing to apply some effort and energy towards learning and growing. And I suggest this first book and this program of the group learning program on Sundays and Wednesdays to really make your way towards this enlightened mental state. We're going to be restarting this program from the very beginning on January 4th, which you can really join this program at any point, even here towards the end. Sometimes students join it and then they're right there ready and when we restart it. But we're going to restart it from the very beginning because it's a 7-month program and you can gradually be learning and developing. So that's what I would suggest for you, is to learn that core central teaching, because without that, you're not going to have the guidance that you need to be able to make any kind of real significant improvement. Okay, any other questions anywhere? Yes, sir.
So, teacher, you teach us how to be peaceful, right? Mm-hmm. And you teach us how to avoid being controlled or dominating by or right.
Sounds like the batteries are out. They're impermanent. Might be because you were sitting so far. You might be able to ask your question, not with that one, but the one you had, because sometimes when you're so far away, if the batteries are weak, it can't pick up the signal.
So my question is why I need to be so peaceful like that? Because in my opinion, in my personal opinion, I feel alive because I can feel angry. If I cannot feel angry, I cannot feel happy, right? So my question is, if I so peaceful like a robot, I have no emotion, I don't feel I'm alive. So I want to ask you, do you feel angry or happy?
Okay. So this is one of the misunderstandings that people have is they think that if you were so peaceful and joyful that you would be like a robot. That's a big misunderstanding that people have. You asked me if I experience anger. I don't experience anger any longer. That's why I teach what I teach, because I'm very interested in seeing as many people as possible getting to this point where they can experience the peace and joy in the mind. Because the teachings of the Buddha lead exactly where he said they do. And I know that with 100% certainty. And that's why I'm motivated and interested in seeing more and more people experience that. People think that if you get to this enlightened mental state, because you lack wisdom of what enlightenment is, that somehow you're like numb or you're dull or you're lacking enthusiasm or ambition. This just isn't true. It's kind of like if I sat here and tried to explain to you what chocolate ice cream tastes like and you've never tasted chocolate ice cream before, you'd have a really hard time to understand what chocolate ice cream tastes like because you never tasted it. You'd understand a little bit about what chocolate ice cream tastes like, but you're not going to actually fully understand it until you taste it yourself. So me explaining to you what chocolate ice cream is like is helpful, but it's not going to fully help you to understand until you actually taste it. So enlightenment is the same way. I can sit here and explain it to you all day long, but you need to taste it. You need to experience it. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you will be experiencing complete happiness and joy, but it's unconditioned happiness. The mind is cheerful and glad and uplifted, but it's what's called unconditioned happiness. In the unenlightened state, you can only experience conditional happiness. And that's because your mind is having this lack of training. That what conditional happiness is like if this condition is met, 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 then I'll be happy, right? If the weather is this, if my mom and dad do this, if my bank account is this, if I have this type of car, this type of house, if I have these types of friends, if I have this type of job, then I'll be happy, right? So your ability to be happy shrinks because it's conditional. Because if it's sunny outside, you'll be happy. But if it's raining, you'll be sad or frustrated. If your mom and dad do this, you'll be happy. But if they do this, you'll be frustrated or angry. If your boss does this, you'll be happy. But if they do this, you'll be frustrated. If your bank account balance is here, you'll be happy. But if it's here, you'll be angry or frustrated. So the idea of all these things being true is very limiting to your ability to be happy. So right now, you're experiencing this happiness and sadness because your mind is experiencing conditional feelings. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you're beyond all of this, where you're experiencing unconditioned mental states, where your mind is just happy all day long. It's just cheerful and glad and bright and uplifted no matter what you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. Like right now, perhaps if your mom died, you might be sad or frustrated or angry. But the mind thinks that's the love that's causing that. But that's not the love. That's the mind craving permanence. The love is a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. You can get to the point where when your mind's enlightened, your mom can actually die and you can still maintain your joy. You're not joyful because she died. You're joyful despite that she died. And now you can maintain your appreciation and your gratitude for having this woman in your life rather than feeling like someone's pulled the carpet out from under your feet or cut you off at the knees. So an individual could continue to go around in their life and being unenlightened, that's an option for you, but you'll never get to peace and joy there. You'll just continue to experience misery and sadness and frustration over and over and over again. Because even when you get happy, it's only temporary. Like say you get a brand new job and you get so excited and happy about this new job, this new salary, whatever it is. Well, as soon as you don't have that job anymore, you'll be frustrated and angry, right? Like maybe the company goes out of business, maybe they lay you off, maybe you get fired, maybe you get injured and you can't do that job anymore. You'll be angry and frustrated. So if you allow your mind to get the conditioned, pleasant feelings, the painful ones are waiting for you right around the corner. Because if your mind can only be happy if this condition is met, that condition is not permanent. So as long as that condition is met, you'll be happy. But when that condition is no longer met, you're going to be angry or frustrated or sad or some painful feeling. So you could allow your mind to continue to go up and down like that. And if you say you feel alive, okay, that's your choice. But I would say that your mind is burdened. It's almost like in a prison where it's continuing to experience being bound up. You can experience this permanent peace and this permanent joy where your mind doesn't have to go up and down like this. Your mind can just be always uplifted and bright and cheerful and radiant. But you need to be able to understand what that is, to be able to understand that you're not going to experience being like a robot. If that's what it was, people wouldn't be interested in attaining it, right? The Buddha, if his mind was like a robot and he was just kind of like dull and lethargic and mundane, nobody would be interested in attaining that enlightened mental state. You know, you oftentimes see the Buddha in these pictures where he's looking very solemn and very serious. So sometimes people think that's what enlightenment is. Well, that's what he's doing when he's meditating. He's just very still, very solemn, very calm, right? But an enlightened being, they're cheerful. They're having fun. They're having fun all day long. And an unenlightened being, they can only have fun when they're getting what they want. And that's limited, right? And an enlightened being, they can have fun no matter what's being experienced. They can have fun all day long. They can enjoy what they're experiencing all day long. So getting to enlightenment is well beyond whatever you're experiencing now. And it's hard for you to fathom what that enlightened mental state is like because you haven't experienced it, you haven't studied it, you haven't understood it. So therefore the mind has these misperceptions of what enlightenment is and why one would be interested in attaining it. But the more you understand what it is and what you experience, then you might potentially be more motivated to actually attain it. But like we were talking about here, is that you still aren't interested in chasing it, but you're not interested in being on the other side where you're dull and lethargic either, that you'd like to just gradually work towards it through wise decision making. Any other questions? Let's see. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. Oh, you have a question, Chris? Yeah.
Yes, many questions, but you mentioned this a few times and it triggered also in me.
I'm not sure if your mic's on or not.
Hello, there we
Okay,
go. Sorry about that. You said this just several times now, so I wanted to bring this back from earlier. So I think I have an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I am getting new understandings, and that's why I'm here. I'm learning. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But the understanding and the feeling is disconnected still.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, but I don't feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious, how do we make that connection? Is it just through the practice, or are there other things that can be done in mindfulness or elsewhere to connect an understanding with a feeling of a realization of that?
A realization isn't a feeling. A realization is where you've cultivated some wisdom that now you've had a shift in your thinking in the way that you approach the world. So you're not looking to get to any particular feeling, because a feeling is conditional, that you can only experience that feeling if some condition is met. That's not what you're looking to get to. You're looking to get to a deeper understanding and understand the wisdom of the world around you. And you're going to need to know the training of how to actually make your way to enlightenment. So let me just do this while we're sitting here talking, let me just back this up, because these are the slides that I use when I'm teaching the Eightfold Path. Okay. This is the 8 individual factors that you need to learn in detail. This is just an image, but there's words of the Buddha behind each one of these things. This is the consistent ongoing training that you employ day by day by day, right? So right now we're just talking about things right now. I'm not giving you any concrete teachings that you can go out and actually implement other than the meditation that I taught you today. There's nothing tangible that I'm giving you that you could go out and implement today. It's when I teach you this, which I teach many times a month, and it's been recorded many times, that's the tangible training that you need in order to be able to know what to do on a day-by-day basis in order to be able to train this mind. If you didn't understand this Eightfold Path, you wouldn't actually be able to experience any type of improvement with the teachings of the Buddha. You can implement some of his teachings here or there, but you don't have the complete comprehensive plan to really experience the big realizations and the big shifts. But still, you're not trying to get to a feeling. What you're trying to get to is understand the wisdom of how to train this mind. Essentially, what the Buddha did is he took human psychology and he built it down to a very common way of understanding the human mind. And now when you understand that and you train your own mind, now you can experience the peace and joy. So it takes me about 2.5 hours to teach this, right? And you can learn this like next week. I'm teaching a course Monday through Friday. It's called Experiencing the Jhanas and the 4 Stages of Enlightenment. This is what we're going to learn on the first day. I teach this in every single one of our courses and retreats because it's so pivotal. It's such a central core teaching. And by the way, all of our opportunities to learn, it's available at no cost, whether it's a book or a course or a retreat or personal guidance, all this stuff's available for you guys. So you need to learn this first. And if you're going to be around next week, great, you can learn it. If not, it's going to be recorded and it has been recorded. You can learn this inside and out. And it's part of the book as well. So you need to learn this first. And then as you learn this, you're going to see the complete comprehensive plan that the Buddha taught to be able to help you get to this enlightened mental state. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, so I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow on the path to enlightenment. Thank you for coming to visit our temple. Thank you for everyone who's joining online as well. If you guys would like to join for future events, we have plenty of things here that you guys can get involved in. This Friday at 6 p.m., we have a social event where students come together and it's called Temple Fun Night, where this Friday, what we're going to do is we're going to play games. We're going to probably have snacks and music playing and all this kind of stuff. So you get to meet different people that are part of our community and just kind of hang out socially. There'll be new people there, but there'll also be people who have been learning with me for a while. So you get to get back, relax, and listen to some music, have a little party, play some games and stuff like that. So you'll see we have a good time on Friday nights. It's every Friday at 6 p.m. Then on Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m., I teach here. So I do meditation with students, but then I actually teach you content from the teachings of the Buddha rather than just kind of having an informal discussion like this. And then on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. in the main hall, we have meditation. You guys are welcome to join for that, where I'll just guide you in a meditation session, and then I open up to questions. This Sunday, we're going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation, so you guys can see what that's all about. And then at 9 p.m. here, I teach the same class that I taught Sunday morning at 9 a.m. I teach it at 9 p.m. here as well. And that's where I'm going to be teaching chapter 20 this week, which is Animal to Human, the evolution of our consciousness, helping you to be able to see how human beings have evolved from our animalistic existences into this human existence. And now that you're a human being, you can actually experience becoming a better and better human being. That's what it means to be on the path to enlightenment. And then on Monday, I'm going to be starting that course, Experiencing the Jhanas and the 4 Stages of Enlightenment, where over the course of 5 days, I'm going to be teaching students from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., taking breaks, of course, and lunch breaks and stuff like this, where you can join and learn some of the more in-depth teachings. So if you'd like to join for any of those, you're more than welcome to. If you'd like to get one of these books, like I mentioned, you can download it for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. If you'd like to come talk with me and figure out how to get plugged into any of our learning resources, you're more than welcome to do that, and I'll help you get started. So there's somebody here that's motivated and encouraged to be able to help you to be able to journey on this path to enlightenment. And if you're done with the broken relationships, if you're done with the anger and hostility and you're looking for a better way of life, that's what the Buddha taught, is how to get to this better way of life. And there's someone here that's more than motivated to be able to help you, but you'll just need to put in your own effort and your own dedication and choose that this is a transformation that you're interested in experiencing. And if so, feel free to get involved in learning the resources with the resources that we share. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.